So here's what happened. We had a ball flipping that chord progression. I had a lot of fun breaking it down. But when it came to actually flipping it, I had absolutely zero idea what I wanted to do with it. I was fixated on the idea of making it a H.E.R type beat because it had a very expressive piano part, but I had no idea how to approach that. So what did I do? I decided to use loops. I know, I hardly do. And it feels like laziness, but honestly, it gave me that gratification, and those loops really came through. So, but all those things that I use from Splice is where I get a lot of my stuff from, actually reminded me that if you don't know how to tell a story with your harmonies and your melodies, there's also a lot that you can do with texture, special effects, and just random licks here and there. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video, beautiful folks. Let's go. But before we proceed, let's talk about her. Only a little bit. I mean, Google is still free, and if you haven't heard of her, then you probably have been living under a rock alongside Patrick. But anywho, her is an amazing singer-songwriter, absolutely versatile, and I personally consider her Volume 1 and 2 one of the most defining pieces of contemporary R&B of the previous decade. It's so good that I consider it a template even today for a lot of female R&B singers. So when I decided to make a beat, I wanted something that harkens back to the sound of Volume 1 and 2, but also to the sound of I Used to Love Her, which I consider one of her best records. Now, she has made a pretty big contemporary switch with Back of Her Mind. You see her branching out, getting more out of her comfort zone, doing a lot more pop stuff. I definitely appreciate that, but it's still me, alongside a lot of people, consider her earlier work her more defining work. And it's good that she dropped a lot of classics because we can always go back to that, right? So with that in mind, we are delving into FL Studio to see just how close I came to recreating the sound of those defining albums that I listed. Um, but also just to break down this beat. Now, if you want me to break down the chord progression, I'm gonna disappoint you in this video. I won't be going in depth since the previous video was all about that. Go and check that one out if you've got the time. But you know what, for the sake of it, I'm gonna do a quick breakdown since there is a minor difference. I actually went down two semitones from G sharp minor to F sharp minor, or G flat minor, however you want to call it. So I'm rocking with an F major ninth chord right here, and I'm dropping down to a G sharp major 7th chord right here. Drops down another semitone to a G dominant 7th chord right here. That goes into an inverted G minor 7th chord right here. Now I'm using this F diminished 7th chord as a transitional chord, and what I've actually got is an inverted G minor chord with an added C just for the sake of drama. Now, in terms of passing chords, I'm adding one more right here. I'm rocking with a G augmented 7 chord right here. It's an important passing chord, really adds a lot of tension. Definitely add that into your beats, and that's basically how I keep repeating it. So a lot of the chord progression is built around that F major 9th chord right here, which then has this G minor 7 chord as its target chord. And check out the previous video because there's a lot of more in-depth stuff that I can teach you there. Now, the first piano chord progression is played with the Gentleman in Contact, which is part of Complete, of course, by Native Instruments. That's the vendor that I mostly use, and I am supplementing that with a dope piano, the Dream Piano D50 from Omnisphere, and I'm also supplementing that with Augmented Strings by Arturia. Augmented Strings intro, I have to say, since I haven't gotten the full version yet. So with all the layers in place, this is what I've got for y'all right now. If I had to describe to you what I feel those layers adds, I feel that that extra piano layer from Omnisphere makes that piano a lot more dreamier, gives it a really nice jazzy feeling, a lot, very, kind of late night vibe. And I feel that because I remember her Volume 1 and 2 as having a lot of beats that gave a very ethereal, very vibey, cloudy kind of sound, I decided to go for this, standard patch, the beautiful swell patch in Augmented Strings intro to really add to that. So let me just mute the strings pattern for you so you can listen to it. And I actually didn't have to do a lot of processing on it. If I look at it, well, I'm pretty generous with the processing. I've got my equalizer, of course, right here, doing the work, doing the damn thing. Then I've got Spaced Out by Baby Audio, which is my favorite delay plugin at the moment ever since I bought it. Then I try and add another layer of smoothness and waviness with some choral. And of course, I add some dynamics, add not actual dynamic, but I make it more dynamic with the volume shaper and the pan shaper in Shaperbox. And this is the moment where I had no idea of how to proceed. Yeah, I could have laid down a drum beat, which I actually reneged on. I went back and I changed it because I wasn't feeling it. I was thinking maybe I should add the guitar, and then I looked at my guitars and I realized that me and my guitars were not in a good place right now. Me and guitar playing are not in a good place right now. I'm confident I'll be picking it up, but right now it's just the drive is gone. So what did I do? I went to Splice. So I took my ass to Splice and I looked for some super amazing R&B guitar loops for some R&B beats, and I didn't exactly find them, but I did find some loops that, I was able to chop and implement in my beats. But here's the real issue. The real issue is not that I have an issue with loops. I am pro loops, I'm pro samples, I'm a-okay with it. I don't really care. The reason why I decide not to use them is because my music is very personal. I want any form of expression in my music to be all me. So I'm kind of surprised that it worked either way. But like I said, I was so lazy. I just ran with it. But I started thinking, as soon as I laid down those guitar samples, what if I just use this beat to play around a lot with textures and vocal samples and guitar loops and effects and tell a story with that to compensate for whatever I can't come up with in terms of melodies and stuff? And that's when the magic really started happening. So I went running back to Splice, realizing that I still had a lot of cool car effects and textures that I could use to tell a story with. And of course, I took out a trusty rain texture, which is what I like to do and implement in R&B beats just to really tell a story. And when all of that came together, I was super satisfied with the product. I felt that, proper use of textures and effects in your beats can really contribute to the vibe and the mood and the story. Because R&B beats are very often associated with late nights, and late nights are often considered associated with parties or drives, being lonely, being vulnerable, or being at your highest highs or at the lowest of lows. So that was an easy way to tell a story with this beat, and that's how the beat really started speaking to me. That's when I regained my confidence, and that's how everything came together. So let's do a quick recap. I had a banging chord progression that I didn't know how to flip, but after adding some dope guitar samples and some dope textures, some dope effects, it really started speaking to me. So I smacked the drums on top of that, just a simple drum beat, and that's how we get the amazing beat that we get in the preview. Now I have to admit, the drums are actually not really reminiscent of Her Volume 1 and 2, but they do give the Valentine the Plug flavor, and at the end of the day, it's supposed to be my beat. So this is kind of the story of how I didn't know what to do with the beat. I was kind of fearing that I wouldn't end up feeling the beat, or that I would just dump it in some random folder, but it came together in the end, and this became an amazing beat either way. I think that if I had to place it, it's more of a beat that you could hear on "Used to Love Her" um, part two, because it really sounds like "Feel Away" by her. Check out that song, "Feel Away." So making this beat was kind of a humbling experience. It reminded me that I don't have to do everything from scratch. It's okay to use pre-existing resources, especially if they contribute to a beat in a way that I can't at that moment. I could have played my guitars, but like I said, me and the guitars, we're not in a good place right now, but we will be very soon. Beautiful folks, I want to thank y'all for watching the vid. I hope it was informative. I hope it was entertaining. I hope it was both, but I'll settle for doing just one. And I hope to see y'all in the next video. Now y'all be easy. Peace.